Tupac was gunned down just off the Strip.
Trouble-plagued rapper and actor Tupac Shakur is dead at the age of 25.
Shots were fired, 14 of them. Tupac was hit 4 times.
25 years later, a music superstar and icon's murder still unsolved.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So as you can see from the title, I went and visited Tupac's shooting location where he got shot back in 1996. We actually went and saw the hospital that he was taken to a mile from the shooting location, and then we actually went and saw the club that he was actually supposed to be performing at after he left the Mike Tyson fight. But before we do all that, I want to give like a brief overview of who Tupac was and what actually led up to the shooting. Tupac was an American rapper, an actor, and a songwriter. He was born in 1971 to a single mother in New York City, and they struggled a lot growing up, and they just had trouble making ends meet pretty much. So as we all know, crime is really high in New York and huge cities, especially in the 90s. There's a lot of gangs and violence and tons of crime going on. He's actually considered one of the most influential rappers of literally all time. And he actually gained a lot more fame after his death, which happens a lot. But Tupac was like a whole nother level of the kind of fame that he gained. Tupac was actually involved in a lot of gang crime, and he had a lot of beef with like all kinds of just different types of people. And he was young, so I think maybe he kind of just had some growing up to do about things and decisions to make, and he had a lot of controversy and everything going on. So at 11:15 p.m., Tupac and Suge Knight were actually about to go to a club for a performance after the fight, and that's whenever Tupac kind of got in like a fight, like a dispute with a gang member, and it was actually a car full of guys. They started to shoot at Tupac and Suge Knight, and they actually shot both of them multiple times. It actually happened at the intersection of Flamingo Road and Koval Lane in Las Vegas, Nevada. And they actually have a big memorial thing set up there, and we actually went and saw that, and I was actually expecting it to be like more crowded and, you know, a bigger thing, but it's literally just a bunch of signatures up on like a big pole. So Suge actually carried Tupac to the car. He drove him a mile to the nearest hospital, and Suge Knight actually was shot multiple times too, so for him to be able to drive was just crazy. So Tupac was actually in the critical care unit for 6 days. While he was there, he suffered from respiratory failure, and that actually led to a cardiac arrest. And they actually tried to remove his right lung, and when they did that, the doctors weren't able to stop the bleeding that happened from that. The doctors tried to revive him forever, it seemed like, but they just couldn't stop the hemorrhaging, and it was just an extreme amount of blood that he lost. So his mom made the hard decision to cease all medical care, and he was actually pronounced dead at 4:03 p.m. 6 days later on September 13th, 1996. It's just such a tragedy because his murder is still unsolved. They have no idea. They had like a suspect, but they just can't really prove anything, and it was just, when it's gang members, it's kind of hard to pinpoint where it came from. And they said actually 6 months later that Biggie died from another drive-by shooting that was gang members, and that's also still unsolved. So I just think the crime rate, especially in the 90s, was extremely high, and there was just so much more gun violence and gang fights, and it's a tragedy. Okay, so now I'm gonna roll all the clips from the shooting location and from the club that he was supposed to perform at, and then also the hospital, and I'll give titles of all those scenes. So if you like this video and you have any other suggestions, just leave them in the comments, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.